Everybody's just gonna tell everything's going great, there's no issues. This wasn't a passport to happen to you. I'll be in DC.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so I'm calling this Wednesday, February 11th, 2026 Board of Trustees meeting to order, and have the clerk call the roll.
President Brown.
Here.
Trustees Donaldson.
Here.
Dykstra. Here. Hanford.
Here.
Mangan. Here. Schunkweiler.
Here.
Maverick.
Here.
All right, if you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will, President's remarks. Andy, do we have anything to pass along to the board?
I don't think so, Your Honor. No.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? I don't see anybody getting up for public comment, so we'll close public comment.
Point of order.
Yes.
Max is here, to talk about something, and this is fine if it doesn't work out, but I was wondering if we, if it would be against Robert's rules if we, did the consent agenda first, so that they could go home, and then we had our discussion, if there was anything that would prohibit that.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. Does anybody have any objections to taking care of the consent agenda and the action items first? And then we'll move on to the discussion items.
Does there need to be a motion for it?
So we're moving,
Without objection.
so we're moving the discussion item
To-
after the consent agenda.
And action items, I mean, that will take a couple minutes, and we'd actually be done with it.
Yep.
So, I don't think we have to have a motion for that. So, we'll go ahead and do that. We've closed public comment, so we'll go ahead and take care of the consent agenda. As of note, these items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine in nature and have already been discussed by the Board of Trustees. They will be approved together by one motion, seconded, and a roll call vote, unless a trustee requests separate consideration. Any item requested for further discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and addressed under action items. The listed ordinances and resolutions were previously discussed at the February 4, 2026 study session, and the board directed staff to bring them forward for final approval. Okay, the items in the consent agenda include A, the minutes of the January 7th, 2026 Board of Trustees study session meeting. B, the minutes of the January 14th, 2026 Board of Trustees regular meeting. C, Resolution 2026-R02, resolution approving the 2026 zoning map for the Village of Savoy. D, the resolution 2026-R03, resolution rezoning 612 Clarendon Court from PDL Plan Unit Development Legacy District to R4 Moderate Density Multifamily Residential District. E, Resolution 2026-R04, resolution approving the use of state motor fuel tax funds under for calendar year 2026. F, Resolution 2026-R05, a resolution approving a compliance support services contract with Farnsworth Group in an amount not to exceed $39,700. G, Resolution 2026-R06, resolution approving a sewer televising contract with Telescan Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $50,000. H, a resolution 2026-R07, a resolution approving a demolition contract with Steve's Trucking Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $120,000. I, Resolution 2026 R08, resolution approving an agreement with the Illinois Commerce Commission to release funding for the Curtis Road project. And finally, J, Resolution 2026 R09, a resolution confirming the reappointment to the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners. That would be Judge Ford reappointment. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, if the clerk could take the roll.
Trustees Donaldson,
Yes.
Dykstra,
Yes.
Canfer,
Yes.
Mangan,
Yes.
Shunkweiler,
Yes.
Maverick,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, and under action items, which we'll take care of real quick, we have Resolution 2026 R10, a resolution confirming an appointment to the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion at all? Okay, seeing none, if the clerk could take the roll.
Trustee Donaldson,
Yes.
Dykstra,
Yes.
Canfer,
Yes.
Mangan,
Yes.
Shunkweiler,
Yes.
Maverick,
Abstain.
motion carries.
All right, that ends our consent agenda and our action items, so we'll move on to our discussion item, which is part 2 of the budget discussion. And I'll turn this over to, I guess, both Andy and Tina.
I'm going to turn it over to Tina.
I think we should have our treasurer here too.
Okay, tonight we are going to go over fire, public works, MFT, sewer, our capital, and then including the equipment replacement fund. So let us start with fire. And those are your numbers that are going to start with 0102. And they are on page 6 of your sheet. Of your packet. And I'll do just like I did last week, where I'll just kind of point out a couple of things that I feel will be significant, and then you guys are welcome to answer questions in that category, if that is okay with everyone. One of the big things you'll notice, well, actually, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go back to the revenue this year. Right now, I wanted to let you know that it looks like we are at about $109,000 of revenue that we have received for the fire department this year, and that includes subscriptions, vehicle rescues, lift assists, those types of things. So just want to let you know where that kind of stood, because it's not up to date. This is up to date through the end of November, and the 109 is up to date through the end of January. So I just wanted to give you an update there. Then when we go to our expenses, one thing you will notice is that we broke out a new wage line, and that is for training. So we're specifically breaking this out to help keep track of what wages are being spent on training our firefighters, so we can just have a better idea of what's coming in and what's going out. They are estimating, Chief Smith is estimating approximately 1,642 hours to go towards training this year, in the next fiscal year. He has it very specific, broke out through categories and classes and how many people. And then along those same lines, our shift, we estimate, are going to be around 26,280 hours. And our paid on-call wages will be around 8,978 hours. Obviously, all of those are very variant on what comes in and what does not come in as far as calls. The other line item that I wanted to highlight is the maintenance line item. They are getting a little bit more money this fiscal year, and if I can find any more money, I will probably add that to that line as well, because unfortunately, the cost of maintaining everything is getting so expensive, especially vehicles or apparatuses. So if I can find a little bit of money here and there, I'd like to add what I can to that line item as well as the public works maintenance line item to help those guys out. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, any questions about the fire, Heather?
This is a question I believe I asked in advance, and that has to do with equipment and the aging of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many trucks, they have this prescribed lifetime.
Correct.
And I realize right now we are very tightly budgeting each category.
Mhm.
But I have still, I don't know what we would label it as, for future capital, knowing we will need to purchase a new fire truck
Correct,
within a
and that-
certain window, that there should be some funds.
Correct, and that goes
Gaming.
across the board, not just for fire, that's also for public works. And that is something that they have been working on as far as a spreadsheet to time out how many years each vehicle, each apparatus will last. And we, I think, are going to have a study session as one of our goals in the upcoming months to establish and work on that together. And then you guys can create a policy on how much you want to set aside to fund those, because if we've set aside, you know, if you say $20,000 per whatever it may be per truck or whatever per year, it adds up very quickly. So we just want to make sure we can do research with the board and come together and create some sort of policy to get that started and going.
So capital replacement has always been a concern of mine, so that we don't end up with a truck that has to be aged out, or one that is past its lifespan for road work. There are some that absolutely have, for safety, have to be a certain way in the fire department, but then we have public works that may be operating with very difficult equipment because it's aged out.
Absolutely.
So this is something I would like to see a study and have a prescribed funding of capital replacement.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Are any of our apparatuses able to be maintained out back like some of them used to be, or do they all get farmed out for manufacturing type?
Yeah, so Public Works does maintain motor work, oil changes, tire rotations, minor stuff, but Neil is not a certified emergency vehicle technician, so he does not work on like the fire pumps or anything of that nature, just for a liability reason.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, I talked to Chief Smith about this. The training wages, I'm really glad to see that separated out for a lot of reasons. So that's where it belongs, where we can see it in a little better way. And then I just wanted to say that our paid on call shift work, it's just so good to see this evolve over the last few years, several years actually incoming, that we have a lot better system of coverage and full-time out-the-door folks. And so, you know, we've all been around, most of us have been around since when we weren't sure who was going to show up, and that was a scary, scary thing, and the response time, et cetera. So just in this budget situation, when I see the wages, I just really think we're on the right track. So thank you, Chief.
How much, in terms of a complete truck, how much does the cost increase roughly each year that we go without replacing the
I have not reached out to them to get a quote. I don't think we've gotten one in several years. I know that our partners in North Champaign have got some, so I can reach out to them and get you guys some data and provide that, but I don't have it with me tonight.
Champaign purchased a new ladder truck last year at $3.8 million, and that same ladder truck was about $1.5 million just a few years before. So we're seeing, you know, and as a matter of fact, I mentioned this in a conversation with Trustee Mangian. It's such a major issue, and it's affecting municipalities across the country that manufacturers actually spoke in front of Congress because there was some concern related to price gouging. It's not sustainable, and additionally, for instance, Champagne's order last year is a 4-year wait on when that fire truck will come in. So it's a massive challenge, not only for us, but across the country.
And can the manufacturer increase the price each one of those 4 years?
Yeah, there's the contract limits the amount of increase, but there is absolutely, you're not locking in and then keeping that cost for the next 4 years. Unfortunately, that continues to go up over that 4-year period.
At least we have that hand pump.
This is a reason that I have concerns and that we need to have that on our horizon for planning.
Absolutely.
Any other questions concerning the fire department? I did have, Sam kind of reminded me of this, and I've meant to bring this up before, but I noticed that the parking lot's starting to show its age. Would that be under the fire department, or would that be kind of under Public Works when we eventually have to start fixing that?
And I guess it would depend, Roland, on what kind of fix we're looking at.
Yeah. Okay.
Building maintenance line item is typically used for building proper HVAC, electrical, plumbing. So we'd have to decide whether we want to try to pull money out of that line item or put that something in our capital project.
I believe when we redid the, the rec center parking lot, that we used that under the capital plan. We set aside a line item for that, if I recall, when we redid the blacktop, I don't know what it's, but I'm pretty sure that came out of our capital line item.
Not being an engineer, I guess I don't know when we're going to fix it, but it looks a little worse every year. So there's little spots of it, not the whole thing, but so. Anyway, okay, if no one has any more questions about the fire department, I guess we can move on to the next.
Okay, thanks. Next we'll do Public Works, and that should be down a couple pages. You're going to be in the 01, 04s.
Page 10 and 11.
Yep. Okay. As far as staffing for the Public Works Department, one of the questions that Trustee Babrick had asked me was, he noticed a difference in the wages for union and non-union from this year to last year. And that is because when we budgeted last year, we budgeted for a certain position in the non-union line item, and that position actually got moved to the union line item, and that reflection is in the wages number this year. We do have one other position open in Public Works, and that is for a project manager. I do believe that will be getting posted in the next couple months, and hopefully we can get Roland some help before Curtis Road really takes off. And then also, they are going to be adding a GIS intern, and I'm not quite sure when that will happen, if it's a summer thing or if it's going to be like a fall. I think depends upon what they can find or who applies. So you'll see that set aside as well. I also want to point out this is a contract year for the union. So we will begin negotiations in March. And we actually have had a quick meet and greet, so Andy could be introduced to the union rep. And we did that maybe in January, I think, yeah. So we'll probably be hopefully finishing that up because their contract expires April 30th. So we'll bring something to the board to be approved once we have all that lined up and looking good. And really everything else is pretty normal, I guess would be the best word to say, as far as there's some increases to account for like the maintenance line item, and otherwise everything's pretty normal. Does anybody have a question?
Heather?
I have a question about the GIS intern. What will that role be?
What would they do?
Yes.
We are behind in updating our GIS maps and the primary things are storm and sanitary sewers. Those exact locations of those manholes, and there's hundreds and hundreds of them, and one of the ways that we caught up in the past, so several years ago before I came actually, is through getting an intern. It's temporary staff, so if that workload gets caught up, then perhaps you don't need it in the future, but thought it'd be a really good way to cost effectively make some progress on that.
Sounds good.
Larry?
I'm just curious on the cost sharing for neighborhood tree placement, is that in here?
That goes under arboriculture.
Okay, so that's part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Bill?
Roland, what are we looking for salt right now? And are you on a contract right now, or I mean, I see we've got a pretty aggressive winter so far.
We're under contract, but a number of years ago when I first came here, we made a decision to try to make sure that at the end of the season that this salt shed was fairly well full,
Yeah.
so that we wouldn't get caught short. And so we're sitting pretty good on salt right now. Every year that's done through the state bid, and it's a little bit of an unknown as to what kind of price they're going to come down in theory, because they're buying for everyone across the state to get a better price. We'll just have to wait and see on that.
Okay.
Joan, did you have a
Yes, I
question?
do. Vehicle fuel, obviously fuel is expensive, although Roland, it must be coming down, yet you've budgeted at least 20,000 more. Is that for a cushion, or why would you say you wanted 20 more than this year? And what, well, it's been varied, obviously, fuel prices.
Looks like it's the same to me, 100,000.
Yeah, it's been 100,000 for 2 or 3 years. Again, the prices that is
But-
budgeted are different from the actuals, which
It
is
is.
shown in the rest of the.
It is a little conservative, because
It is definitely.
because that
You never know.
price could fluctuate, and even in the past few years, we've seen big swings in
Right, the forecasted for 25-26 is 79,000. And the forecast for next year would be 100,000.
right. And like I said, we tried to budget extra money in there, because
Okay.
price could go up unexpectedly.
Right, so
And,
the cushion.
if that
Okay.
is not used, then,
Mhm.
it's returned to the budget, so to speak.
Any other questions about public works? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on.
All right, next we will go to MFT. That line item starts with 17, and that is on page 14. Really, all items are pretty routine. There's really nothing of significance in the terms of changes for budgeting purposes. Roland kind of just got his resolution passed, so.
And I did check, these are budget matches up with the resolution
Yep.
items. So, good job.
Any questions on this item? Somebody, come on, someone has to ask about it. Oh, of course.
I get you
Engineer.
one, just so I know there were a number of changes that the state just passed related to sales tax on fuel and reconfiguring a bunch of things for our friends up north. Did it impact local municipal MFT for downstaters?
I haven't
I've
heard.
heard a lot of industry noise, but I haven't really scrubbed the issue enough to know
I
whether.
haven't seen anything myself about
Okay.
any projected increase for us. Other than I do know that the state, was it 2 years ago, put automatic
Yes,
inflationary
yes.
elements in there. So we would in theory see a small increase over time, which we didn't before. It's
Yeah.
flat, so that depending on how you look at it, that's good.
Yeah, okay.
Sidewalk infill projects, is this the time that I could ask about that?
Sure.
So that's 88900.
There's a sidewalk maintenance line item under MFT, is that what you're talking about, or you want to?
Capital infrastructure, I
go
thought that's
to-
where we were
Now we're still on MFT.
Any other MFT?
Yeah, any other, okay, we'll move on to,
Well, I was gonna go to sewer next, but if you went into capital, we can. I figured capital usually takes a little longer, so we say that one.
why don't we get sewer out of the way?
Yeah. Sewer is pretty normal. You will see a transfer out to SURF this year. And this is, so I'm gonna kind of jump ahead a little bit. That this money in combination with some other funds that we found are going to help replace, the street sweeper that Public Works is in dire need of because the other one is costing more to repair than it's worth. And it's also very, very hard for them to find, replacement parts. And a lot of what they are getting are rebuilt replacement parts. So that's what that transfer is going to go towards. And then a really exciting thing is that the Curtis Road Interceptor will be paid off in October of 2026. So yay! So that's why you'll notice that number difference there as well. Any other questions for sewer?
Any questions for sewer? John?
All right.
Oh, it's called John.
I'm still into the info.
We'll move on.
All right. Joan, do you want to ask your question? Because I don't have that one highlighted, so I'll let you, if you want to ask that one.
889, just that the infill project, revenue, or cost rather, has been, all over the board. 2021 was 109, 21, 22 was 0, 24, 25 was 0. But the budgeted, or projected for this year, last year was 25, and we're budgeting 50. So I guess my question is, what projects do we have? Because it can be, 105 was a lot in 2021. I don't know, during COVID, we did a lot of infill, but, yeah, maybe, is that might consider infill?
If you look around the village, you'll notice there's a lot of problems with motor sidewalks in particular. I'd like to keep going down Church Street. That's one area that needs, and we have ramps that are non-compliant in many areas around the village. The ADA transition plan, which the board adopted last year, year before, commits to a minimum $50,000 sidewalk improvement. So that's partly why you're seeing that number. But we're doing some street patching on Tamaris, probably for sure east Tamaris, and I think we're going to look at west Tamaris also. Then if I want to add sidewalk, while the contractors there working on the street, it makes sense for them to be doing sidewalk at the same time. This would be a line where we could do that. But every year, there's a number of locations that we, and right now, actually, in the next few weeks, as the weather's broken, it's nicer. Engineering technician's gonna be out working with Clark Gates to identify work locations. We have more than enough opportunity to spend that.
And one reason I ask that is for people watching, for the public consumption, is I'm interested in the infill as well as other people that might be watching, because there's nothing more important than sidewalks and roads and public safety. So that's one reason I brought it up, so that people would have an idea of what we're doing for the next year.
Right.
Thank you.
And I concur that especially ADA accessible sidewalks make a sidewalk usable for many people who may not be able to use the sidewalk without that transition level, or may have to walk 2 blocks out of their way in order to gain access to a sidewalk. So that ADA compatibility is important. And it is amazingly expensive to replace sidewalks. However, sidewalks with certain differential can also be a liability if someone catches their foot on it and has a spill. So it is important to pay attention, otherwise you can have sidewalks that no one can use. And so I appreciate your attention to detail on this, and I do hear a lot of feedback from individuals who use sidewalks or our pathways. And I have known people who have used the street for a couple of blocks so they can gain access to a sidewalk from an ADA transition.
Can you help me understand that there's a sidewalk line under MFT, there's a sidewalk line under our sidewalk infill, and then there's sidewalk work that the guys just do as part of their labor, and is that just, is there a set of rules or, I mean, IDOT's got rules on their money, I guess.
Well, the IDOT MFT funds that's in the miscellaneous category where we can spend up to $25,000 just by getting quotes without getting a big contract.
So that's all, it's all has to be contracted out on the
Yes.
MFT.
Right. So I think the thinking was that I have to look back at the ADA transition plan, but at the risk of correcting myself earlier, it was 25 in MFT and 25 minimum in capital. Together 50, but we just have so much need that I suggested upping it a little bit this year.
But then on top of that, when guys are out just grinding down,
Yes.
but that's just really coming out of our labor budget, the public
Right.
works labor budget. That's not.
They do a little bit of contract work. They do some foam jacking sometimes.
Okay.
But they do asphalt wedges and they do grinding as well. Yeah.
Okay. We're just trying to understand which lines, which work items come out of which lines, which, I mean, you have sidewalks in multiple places.
Yeah.
But they're important.
Did that little sidewalk ever get put in over by Accolades? In the park?
No, it's on our to-do list. Yeah.
It made me think about it. It's been a long time since then.
And I'll second that because there is a population there who would like to have access to the park.
We had somebody previously that didn't necessarily want that.
I will make note of that.
I guess continue.
Okay. I'm going to point out again that the line item 3105-416, that is the Parks and Recs Improvement Projects line item. That is where we roll the money over from what the rec center makes, and we roll it into that line to help fund projects and things that they need. So that is something that we are continuing to do each year. And then 3104-423. This is for the Gulf View, I didn't turn my page, I apologize. The Gulf View Court Engineering Services. It shows $120,000 there. This number reflects the retainer that we will keep until the project is 100% complete, and then we, pay whatever is left. So they have their punch list of items that they need to finish up before Roland's going to let them have any more money. And if there are any residual funds from that, then we can reallocate where we feel that we need it within SIF. And then the last one I wanted to point out for SIF is the Curtis Road one that says that it's going to be created. The $600,000 that is currently listed there is more of a placeholder. And I'm going to actually let Roland give you a little bit more info on that and an update on Curtis Road.
As Tina mentioned, that's a placeholder for now. It is our plan. I talked to Andy and President Brown about coming back this summer with a study session to give you an update. It's been a while since we've been before the board. We anticipate some mid-project cost estimates to be completed at that point, so that'd be appropriate time to come back and tell you where we're at. I can tell you that the good news is that the $3.35 million local project grant that we got from IDOT this fall, making the numbers look a lot better. But we anticipate with the cost estimates, we're still early in final design, so it's an evolving project. We have cost estimates this summer. We'll come back sit down with you and go through A to Z and talk about it.
And then I said that was the last thing, but I
So-
forgot.
On that line item, while we're there, is
Yeah.
that the to be created, the Curtis Road line, I mean, there's land act or utilities costs that happen early. Is that what you're planning to use that for, or is that
Correct,
just,
yeah.
okay?
And there's a lot of other money.
Land
that
acquisition
I've
probably
seen
should
there,
be-
several $1 million coming from, Illinois Commerce Commission.
Yeah.
Federal, STU funds.
Yep.
That's much more than this matter.
Much more involved and backdoor stuff as far as keeping track of who and what and where.
Yeah.
Also wanted to point out that the Public Works loan is the last loan that we have as a village right now to pay off. That is anticipated to be paid off in July of 2033, which is closer than it sounds, but so that is all I have for SIP unless anyone has any further questions.
Any questions? All
No?
right.
All right. Then we will tackle surf, our last one. Currently, we just have the $65,000 in there for turnout gear. We left that because you never know when they're going to need to update something, or we get a new employee that doesn't fit in any of the existing ones. We need to have a different one made for them. So we just kind of left that there. The radio replacement we did do last year, I believe, is when we did that. So I'm kind of just using that as a placeholder right now in case something else becomes apparent that we need to use it for at the fire department. And then lastly, the equipment replacement, that big number again is for the street sweeper that Public Works desperately needs. So that is all nice and simple there. Any questions?
Any questions? Alrighty.
All right, that is all that I have for you, unless you have anything else.
Anybody have anything else for Tina? She'll be here next month.
No, not next month. Oh, I will be here next month. We have quarterly reports, don't we?
Yes.
We should have made Jolene sit in the audience. Maybe, she probably is watching, so. What's that? Anyway. Let's see, so, we're done with our discussion items, so we'll move on to item number 9, Board of Trustees remarks. Anybody have any more remarks?
Wait a minute. Tell me about the open house again, in case anybody wants to come on Planet Fitness. Isn't it Friday?
It's Friday, we've created a civic notice, it's on your calendars.
Right.
And that's all I know, but it
Is
is,
it a ribbon cutting or just an open house?
we haven't been, it's an open house, I don't
Okay, so you
believe.
just show up whenever.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's my
But we
understanding.
need to make a reservation for showing up, right? Or like-
No, you're welcome to just show up, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. Not too bad.
Not too
For a
bad.
whole budget discussion. So we don't have anything else on our agenda, so I'll declare us adjourned, unless you raising your hand beforehand.
It's timing, are we planning to approve the budget in
April.
April? Okay.
That is my plan. The only hiccup that I saw today was that our first meeting in April is April 1st. And then
Tuesday.
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
2 days on my budget.
And my only hesitation is that the county can be rather late sometimes with getting out their final EAV. And that's my only concern. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that and keep everyone updated as to, I know we have to have it approved before April 30th. But I just wanna make sure that we're as accurate as we can be.
Did we do a?
We've done special meetings in the
meeting, yeah.
past.
Did
We
we
have.
do a
Put them
special
at the
meeting
end of
by-
April because we wait. And
Yeah.
there have been times where we've done special meetings late and still only gotten the numbers the day before we had the
Correct.
special
Yeah.
meeting.
We used to meet the third also. so.
Yeah. But I think we had it the fourth.
But,
we
yeah.
had special meetings the fourth week of April.
If we still don't have it, we can always have a special meeting for that. And I know Larry would like to follow up or discussion next month on so the I don't know what you would call that, special events.
Yeah, that'll probably come May or June. We have the green space. We have quite a bit on our docket right now, so if it's agreeable, it's a pretty significant policy discussion that revolves, I think, as much around economic development as a whole. That would be my recommendation. We could bring something more brief in time, but we're going to have to bring something back again.
That, I wanted to talk about that in relation to this budget.
Mhm.
So unless the budget's going to go in May,
No.
my hope was that it was going to be in the March study session.
How much did you say you're hoping to see, like on a line item for something like that?
15,000.
But I think, my belief, though, is that it needs to be, as opposed to just assigning 15,000 to a line item, we should have a discussion about what our goals are with economic development money and make sure that it's, that everybody has the ability to provide that input. And I think we can pass the budget and we can always amend the budget. We're really talking, the money's there. The money will be in the budget, and so our policy discussion won't revolve around putting new money into the budget. So if we have the discussion in May or June, that money can be spent on whatever policies you all would prefer to adopt moving forward. Now, if there's specific money you want to spend between May 1st and when we have that discussion, that would be a challenge potentially, but I want to do it right, quite frankly, and getting it done March 4th would not be doing it right. So I will yield to the board, but that would be very challenging to have a educated discussion about where we're going with economic development policies.
Yeah, I agree that if, after our discussion, that we decide that we want to include that, to find something in the budget, I think what Larry was hoping, let me back up because I won't speak for him, but one of the things I'd like to see going forward is that we have policy discussions that create the budget, that we hear from elected or officials and department heads, so that we get a better understanding than just the number, and we don't have any then ability to have robust discussions over how we want the budget to look and what our priorities are. So I think that's a little bit of a frustration I might have in terms of, I'm just looking at a number and I don't get to say before the budget is approved. But I agree that we should have a good conversation that can be afterwards. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, and if the board wants it done in March, we'll do our best to bring it in March. That's an aggressive turnaround, but we will try to bring that forward.
Heather?
I have a remark too. As you know, I've had concerns about green space and stormwater infrastructure. And I'm not seeing exactly in this budget where that is accommodated, and maybe I can learn more about that by the time we meet next. Because we had some presentations and we did some engineering studies, and that's kind of present and past, and then we have a presentation that's going to be forward-looking. And all of those things require funding, and where that funding lies.
So may I reply?
Please.
One of the things that we have to remember is that in the next couple of years, our big project is Curtis Road. And so we've had to put a lot of our resources into that. Not ignoring anything, I know you're still working on the stormwater, but we do have a lot of our resources, again, going towards that project, which you all agreed that we wanted to go forward with. So I just don't want to lose sight of that. We're not trying to delay anything as far as, in parks or any other type of projects. We're just trying to do what we've been guided to do.
So not to eclipse one thing by another, but
Correct.
you know, what, moving forward, what is there and what a timeline can.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other items? Okay, I'll declare us adjourned.
Larry, I can get it done, it's just, it's gonna be short, I mean, that means we have to